My name is Dan Brown, and I'm one of the owners of Blumberg Digital. I am now the president of the company. I used to be the chief operating officer of the company, but that role is now being taken over by our day-to-day fearless leader, that is Britt. And Britt is, she's been moved up as being my deputy chief operating officer to the chief operating officer, bumping me out, moving me out into the president position. She's basically doubled the company. We've grown and expanded, so it's a well-deserved promotion. Yeah, let's give Britt a big hand. I mean, what a great job she's doing.
Thanks, everybody. Very excited for 2026.
Fantastic. There's another position change in our company, which has to do with the fact that, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we've got this thing called artificial intelligence that's moved in strong. Bloomberg Digital is making certain that we're on the very forefront of not just AI, but every form of technology, every advance in marketing, looking at trends, testing new things for you. And the person who's been with the company since I think about day 3 or day 4, Alan Seen, he's always been a senior tech person in our company, one of the founding members of this company, but we have just moved him into the official position of Senior Vice President for Digital Innovation. Alan is going to be taking on, or has taken on already, this role to make certain that we are in a position to make sure that we're not moving you into something technically that is not ready. Also, getting onto the cutting edge technology. So cutting edge, but not yet bleeding edge, where we're going to waste your time, waste your money, make things worse for you. Alan just attended a conference with some of the biggest names in marketing. That would be Neil Patel, Russell Branson, Gary Vee, and many others, all around AI and where's marketing going for tomorrow. So Alan's there to make certain that we are not getting left behind in any way, shape, or form as a company, and also for delivery. So Alan, maybe just kind of, if you wouldn't mind unmuting, I'm just curious, maybe you want to give a little bit of information. I got a question for you. So how quickly are digital innovations changing marketing for dentists? Can you just say a couple words on that from your perspective and your new position in the company, but your longstanding position as a senior tech person in the company?
Sure, yeah, happy to. I mean, things are always obviously moving fast in tech and marketing as well, but it's not, there's a lot of hype and trends, I feel like, with AI and all that stuff. So I wouldn't, it doesn't go quite as far as that. It's not like you wake up and AI is taking over everything tomorrow. For example, we're always on top of things like with Google Ads. One of the examples would be there's AI campaigns now. And that's kind of like you see that AI results sponsored at the top of Google when you're searching for things now. But we see that, we've tested it. It doesn't work quite as well as like the regular keyword campaigns that we're running. So that's a thing that's out, and it's got hype behind it, but we tested it, we see it, and we're always watching for those things. But that's one of those things where it's not, you wake up and your job's taken by AI, or it's completely changed the landscape. The foundation of marketing really hasn't changed pretty much.
Nice. A lot of people are saying, AI search is totally taking over Google search. What are the actual stats on that, Alan?
A lot of it say it's still less than 1%. I've been looking at that, even with something more realistic, like the direct AI search fed to you, like in Gemini or ChatGPT, I think is still less than 1%. But AI's got, mixed in with Google now. And even that with like brick and mortar businesses like dental practices, it's not over 7 or 8%. And even still, it's the same, you're doing the same fundamental things basically to get there. So it's not changing anything hugely.
Nice. Alan, are you recommending people stop doing any specific type of digital marketing, to go in the direction of AI? So much being pushed all over, you got to do this, everything, all of your marketing can be automated from start to finish. What are your recommendations and thoughts on that point?
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I think that's hilarious. I get ads on like Instagram of like, we have a whole AI business for you, instead of like, you don't need to go with traditional businesses, but it's almost laughable. But yeah, if something's working, if you're doing Google Ads or you're doing SEO or anything like that, and that's working, definitely keep doing it. Even if it's slowing down or it didn't work last month or something like that, that's something that you should talk with your marketing company, or in our case, talk with your account manager. There's going to be things back and forth that change little bits, or something may have changed in the office or on our end. But if something's working, definitely don't, you can try new things, but don't stop doing a successful thing that's bringing ROI for you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Words of wisdom there. So then let's talk about that. So let's talk about anything new that practices should be doing or considering. Marketing's always changing. There is AI it is here and it's going to be coming even stronger. Anything else that people should be considering?
Yeah, I mean, marketing, with AI, there's a lot of tools. Like, again, I don't think it's changed the landscape really, but there's a lot of tools that are cool that, every dental practice is different. But I would say going out and finding tools that help automate your systems or help make your job easier or track better is a cool thing that everyone could be looking out for. But keeping in the basics, like tracking where your patients are coming from and kind of reinforcing those things and getting reviews, and all of those things are the main things that you want to do. And if you find tools that are helpful, I think that's cool. But even if you're not doing any crazy innovations on your side, I don't think that makes a huge difference. As long as, for example, with the companies you're working with, your marketing company, there is a lot of innovation that needs to be being done. And that's something that we're doing. For example, we have more integrations with pulling in ROI, like we're working with Eaglesoft and Open Dental right now, for example, pulling ROI data and calendar information and everything like that so that you can better track exactly where every single lead comes from. We can optimize better with that information and you can operate better because you're able to know what's working. Local service ads obviously is still relatively new, but that works. It's one of those things where Google ads still works. Local service ads is definitely working and it's somewhat new, and then we're again innovating on our implant funnel and other things like that. Better automations, better tools for following up and everything like that. So let's just
on those points. So let's take those up because they just come off. Like I know this is every day for you, but I just want to make sure everybody understands what Alan's talking about when we talk about integrating. So if you've got Open Dental at Eaglesoft, and we're going to be going into all of the major dental platforms, what that means is that you have a leads tracking. If you're doing paid ads, you have a platform that is tracking all your leads. We're working to tie that in with your dental software so that we can actually see if that person who clicked on an ad and called into the office then arrived and what was the return on investment. Now, until that's fully dialed in and working, you have to do that manually, and that's non-negotiable. But it tells us as a marketing company what's working for you, what is the actual return on investment. So that's the integration. We're spending, I can't even tell you how much we're spending. We're spending a lot of money to do that integration right now and lots of time. And we're going to be piloting it and rolling it out. But that's one thing that we're doing. Certainly something that you should consider getting in right now is your manual tracking so that we can move that over to digital. And then another thing that Alan just said is Google local ads. And Google local ads are different than your typical Google ads. Google local I'm verified by Google. I get the check mark. So when somebody searches dentist near me, you get verified up there. And so that means a lot to people today. And we're seeing people get great results. Now it's less controllable on our side as a marketing company to get you the exact campaign and demographic and lead. It's a little bit more just kind of shotgun approach. Google says, nope, we're not going to let you manage that, Blumberg Digital or any marketing company, but we're going to put you up at the top and we're going to give you a verified badge. And that's working fantastically for people. It's relatively inexpensive. The budget can be controlled and we're seeing clients really do well with that. So if you don't have a Google verified badge, reach out to your account manager, get that badge. It's a big deal to people. Now, Alan, you talked about our implant funnel. For those of you who want more implants, you want more implant traffic, whether singles or multiples or all on X or, full mouth restoration, raise your hand if you want more of that. Raise your hand if your office wants more of that. Okay, well, you should be doing an implant funnel. That is a very specific campaign to bring about implants. Now, that traffic is generally more expensive to get, but those people who come from an implant funnel, if you think of a funnel is at top is big, and then it moves a person through various stages before it ever hits you. So you get less time wasters. The leads that you get are not guaranteed, but they're far more qualified. So an implant funnel, man, back in the day, 8 years ago, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was almost too easy. And then when COVID came along, it seemed like there weren't that many implant providers around. Plus there was, anybody could get financing during that time. Things have changed. And raise your hand if you've seen that things have changed, that financing is more difficult. There's more providers out there. There's more people advertising for implants. So we have drastically adjusted our implant funnel to be far, far more effective and optimize that experience. And so you got to stay up to date with that. So, Alan, anything else that people should think with from a technical standpoint or opportunity standpoint if they're doing marketing or they want to do some more marketing?
No, I think those are all good points that you brought up. I think we're again continuing to innovate on our side. Additionally, we have like for our premium SEO, we're starting to roll out an AI bolt-on service as well. But these are all things that we're innovating and working on. And I would say reach out to your account manager or Miriam or something if you have questions on that, because we are watching, we are innovating, we're rolling out new services. And even with our existing services, we're continuing to watch, test, whatever. So there's services out there and tools that you can use that can help you, but you're not going to wake up tomorrow and everything's different.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that. And for those of you who want to understand, so if you're on premium SEO, that's a service we offer. We now have a relatively inexpensive bolt-on service to start getting you optimized for AI. That landscape is far more nebulous than traditional search engine optimization. But if you are on premium SEO, you need to find out what that bolt-on service is. I would just do it. It's us optimizing you with all the AI engines, and AI search is coming. I think ChatGPT, they launched Atlas as an attempt to compete as a browser with Google Chrome, Apple Safari, Mozilla, etc., and do it in AI. I've tried Atlas as a browser. I'm one of their pilots. Not impressed. It's very confusing, hard to navigate, but some people are using Atlas. And so how do you get optimized for that? And then Gemini. Google's Gemini. Google's not just going to sit back and let ChatGPT and Grok and all these other AI engines just come and sweep their public away. Trust me that it is one of the most financially solvent companies on planet Earth. So I think they've got a lot of things in store. Alan was telling me about some of the things coming of what Google has planned for Gemini. So you want to be optimized for AI, and that's our AI bolt-on service for premium SEO. We've got Miriam. Miriam, can you just tell people if they want to get more data on these services, Google Ads or Google Local or SEO Premium or, Premium Bolt-on or Implant Funnel. Miriam, how do people reach you?
It's super easy. I have an email. I'm going to put it in the chat box in a minute, but it's miriam@bloombergdigital.com. If you have an account manager at Bloomberg, just ask them and I'll jump into one of your monthly check-in calls. They always know how to get a hold of me. Or you can text or call me. It's in the chat box now. My cell phone number, my email address, text, call, email us. We're here for you. We will also, on that note, always sit down with you and strategize what is the right way for your practice, because every practice is different. Every location is very different. So we do a personal analysis for your practice, whether you're on services with us or not. We'll get you taken care of.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miriam. Well, without any further ado, let's get on to it. We've got a special guest here today, and that is Dr. Saahil Trivedi. So let's everybody here welcome Dr. Saahil Trivedi.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Good to see you all. I'm Dr. Saahil Trivedi. Been with Blumberg Digital, I think, for many years now. We have a couple of practices up here in New York City. So we have two main practices. One is in Queens, if you know LaGuardia Airport, pretty close to that. And the other one is in the heart of Manhattan and right by Madison Square Garden and Penn Station and all that area. So it's interesting because these offices are only about 12 miles apart, but they're very different offices. One is maybe in the most urban center you can be in, and the other one's pretty suburban. And then we've recently added a practice that's a little bit further east from where we are, even more suburban area. So we've got a nice variety of practices. We're fully, as of last year, fully out of network with insurances, fully fee for service. We offer pretty much every aspect of dentistry in-house, all specialists under one roof, and we're growing. We had our best year to date last year while dropping all of our PPOs over a 12-month span. And big part of that was the marketing we've been doing with Blumberg Digital.
Well, Doctor, again, thanks for coming. I think I'm just going to roll out some of the common concerns. And you and I may or may not have talked about these, but we've been doing massive surveying of dentists to find out what are their upsets, troubles, frustrations, et cetera. And here's some of the ones that came up. So spending money without seeing results, inconsistent new patient flow, low case acceptance for high value treatment, leads not followed up properly, confusion about what's actually working, reputation management stress, being, quote, sold to by marketing companies. You have a marketing company come along and say, oh, we've looked at your website, it's horrible. And then you get a new marketing company, a new website, and then another one called, oh, we've looked at your website and it's horrible. And so they just end up with like a revolving door of marketing companies never feeling like their marketing's good enough. And then discomfort marketing themselves, like they're just not able to think with it, how to do it. Should I be on video? Should I be in social media and these sort of things? So with those frustrations in mind, I'm just kind of curious, which of these frustrations do you see most often when you talk to other dentists? I'm going to give you that question to think with while I give you two more.
Okay.
Which one of those did you personally struggle with? I mean, before building your current systems? And then lastly, what do you think most dentists misunderstand about marketing? So those are kind of the three opening questions. You could amalgamate them all into one or whatever, wherever you want to go on this one.
Yeah. And I'll speak to all three of them really. I think the biggest frustration that I see, and I get to talk to a lot of dentists because I speak to dentists a lot and help them with their practices. And the biggest one I think is just spending money without seeing results is a lot of what they think. And they feel like, okay, I'm spending X amount of money on marketing and I'm just not seeing the new patients in the chair from that. And for us personally, I spend a lot of money on marketing. I'm not going to lie. I have a big marketing budget because I have a big practice and I have a fee for service practice. So that has very high marketing demands. And I'm in one of the most competitive areas of the country in New York City. I mean, there's dentists on not even every block, but in every building. I think there's one building in Manhattan with 40 something dentists. It's on Park. And that's always been an ongoing thing is we always want to optimize our marketing as dentists and make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. But I think what a lot of dentists misunderstand about marketing, and I've really learned this in my years of doing marketing and from Blumberg Digital, is marketing at its core, their job is to give you the leads. And when I really realized that, and I realized that it was really a partnership between my marketing company. I've had many marketing companies over the years. Now it's really just Blumberg Digital, but it's a partnership between the marketing company and my practice. And so I spend a lot of time finding the right marketing companies, making sure we're doing the right marketing. But then I also spend a lot of time and attention optimizing the handling of those leads by my office. And my new patient coordinator in charge, actually, I just saw her on the call, Nikita. So big shout out to her, but she does a great job helping us do that. We've really worked hard and continue to work hard in optimizing the in-office handling of the leads, have that kind of synergy between the marketing company, which is awesome, but also what we do in the office.
Fantastic. Great. Lots of wisdom there, lots of experience there. So you've done all the power program at MGE, your mom, Dr. Shilpa, your father, Rushi, your sister, she's a dentist as well. And then you've done massive training with your executives. I think it started with you and your father, or your mom and your dad. So she's a doctor. Your dad left the finance world to join her in practice because it was just kind of like going nowhere in a very competitive, challenging environment. They got onto the power program. They did fantastic. They put you through training and then put you both in dental school. Then you moved into clinical. And then shortly thereafter, you were the CEO. And now you're the CEO, not necessarily practicing. I think you practice now and again.
Yeah, I think I did. In my main practice, I put in 9 clinical days last year.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Good. So everybody here, raise your hand if you would like to be in that spot where you've moved out of the clinical or you've moved the doctor out of clinical and you're in this management spot and you have put an executive structure in place. You've got office managers, you've got regional office management, you yourself are being the CEO. Can I ask you, having that distance from, the everyday cope, is that important and is that key to your success?
It actually is because it allows me to really focus on the bigger things. When I'm not in there worrying about the day to day, I can focus on having a lot of bright ideas on marketing, having a lot of bright ideas on sales, having, ideas with expansion and hiring and things like that. So it allows me to focus on much more long-term strategy.
Yeah, I just thought that was so important. It's not a marketing thing, but it allows you to have the time to go spend on marketing. So right. I think very important. Dr. Trivedi, you said there were 2 non-negotiables.
Yes.
2 non-negotiables. And I think a lot of people here want to know what those top 2 things are. Can you talk on those top 2 things?
I'll give you the 2 non-negotiables for me. The first one is actually reviews, is actually what I want to talk about. So as Dan alluded to, I took over the practice in 2020. I graduated dental school in 2017. I worked clinically, 6 days a week. COVID hit. I felt it was a good transition period for me to take over all the management of the practice. So I've been running, the practice since 2020. And my first big focus, and I actually got this from Dan, is I was down at a seminar and Dan was talking about QR codes and reviews. And I said, we're going to just blow the reviews out of the water. I don't care what else we do. I'm not even going to look at marketing right now. Whatever we have is working. I'm just going to become the highest rated office in my area by an order of magnitude that is not ignorable by patients. Like they see it and they have to They almost feel like they have to call me. And so I did. I trained all my staff on it. I made it a really big deal. I explained to them why it's so important. And the reason it's so important is there's a lot of patients out there who are terrified of going to the dentist, right? But they need to go to the dentist. What reviews gives those patients is peace of mind. And it's really the way I got my staff to understand it. Is like, listen, we need to get these reviews. It's not for the patient leaving the review. It's not for us as an office. We're getting these massive amounts of reviews for those patients who are terrified of coming in. And this is going to make them feel comfortable enough to come into our office. And then we know the second they come in, we're going to spoil them and we're going to change their mind about dentistry. But yeah, and Dan's pulling it up. That's our practice. I'm going for 3,000 by the end of this month. When I started this, I was probably 400 or 500 when I really took on the challenge of reviews.
And then this is Chelsea.
This is my Manhattan practice. They have killed it. They start off with like 200 reviews. They really took charge last year. And I think we got over 1,000 reviews in 1 year in our Manhattan practice. And that has made the world of difference for us because I saw my marketing working better without making any changes to my marketing.
Amazing.
On my reviews.
Now I've got a dying question for you, and I think everybody here wants to know. So I'm your team member. I look on Google. You've got the most reviews of any dental practice in your respective area, and probably for even a broader area than that. Why would I keep adding reviews?
That's a great question. And again, this is something I learned from Dan that I really was pushing on my staff the last 2 months of last year, because that can happen, right? So we're the highest rated practice in the state. You earn a little bit of complacency with that. Okay, we made it. But what I've realized and what Dan taught us is Google very much looks at how many recent 5-star reviews have you gotten? And that makes total sense to me because Google's whole job is to provide the person searching with what they feel is the most accurate result. So if someone is looking for the best dentist near them, Google doesn't want to provide them someone who was the best last year. They want to provide them someone who was best this month. And so it's very important to continue to get 5-star positive reviews. And I saw this, actually, I was talking to a dentist a few weeks ago, came to see our office, and she was talking to me about marketing. We looked her up on Google, and I'm just going to make up numbers, but let's say she had 4.9 stars, 720 reviews. And there was another office about half a mile away that had 4.8 stars, 720 reviews. So all things considered, same exact amount of reviews. She's higher rated, and yet that dentist office showed up first on the list in Google Maps, and she showed up 4th or 5th. And we really looked into it. And she hadn't gotten a review in about 2 weeks, but this other office had gotten 4 or 5 5-star reviews in the past few days, right? So Google really prioritizes recent positive reviews, and then they also really prioritize.
And can we just show them how to do that? Where you can click on your reviews and you can sort by newest. Yeah, so I'm going to click on newest, and it's going to show me. You got this review 40 minutes ago, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, 23 hours ago, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. So that is showing the frequency of reviews, which is one of the 4 factors that Google determines where to rank you as far as, at the top or otherwise. 1 is your Google total number of reviews. 2 is your rating. 3 is how frequently you're adding reviews. And then 4, are you answering your reviews? The most highest weighted of those is how frequently you're adding reviews. Because it's, as Dr. Trivedi just said, you've been good in the past, but are you still good today is the bigger question. And then, believe it or not, second behind that, provided your review standing and numbers are in good shape. Everybody put a thumb up if your practice is over 150 reviews. Put your thumb up in the air okay, good. So 150 is the draw line. Your next goal is to be the highest rated in your area. And then next goal is to be double over the number 2 office. So you got to be, highly rated. You can never have a 4.7 or below. I'm going to say that again. You can never have a 4.7 or below. You got to be 4.8, 4.9, 5.0. So provided your number and your rating is in good shape, the most important thing is how frequently you're adding. And then secondly is are you answering them? It's great stuff. Now, Dr. Trivedi, there is a question here that came up. How is a doctor able to push his staff on reviews?
That's a great question. The first thing I did is I explained to them the importance of reviews. Again, it's not just something that we're very proud of it, but what is the real purpose of reviews? It's to get in the patients that need the help. When you position it that way and you explain to the patient, to the staff, hey, that we need to get reviews because we need to get these people in who are avoiding the dentist. These people who haven't been to the dentist for 4 or 5 years, When we get them in, we can change their health, we can change their lives, and they buy into the bigger vision behind it, which is, I think, is really key. And I explain that to my patients too. I'm like, listen, you're not leaving the review for me. If you really enjoyed the treatment you got here, you're leaving the review to get somebody else to get the treatment that you got here. And that's when they really buy in. And then our process was, so I really explained to the staff why it's so important. I printed out QR codes laminated for every room, every desk, everywhere you can imagine. And then I practiced with the staff. I just had them, we call it drilling, right? You had them drill how to get reviews, and they just pretend to practice with other staff members.
Beautiful. How frequently do you do those drills? And just so everybody knows here, we have the script for that drill so that you can actually get that, reach out to your account manager. And if you're not a client of Blumberg Digital, reach out to Miriam. We'll get you that 1-page script. You print it off for every team member. You put everybody into drilling. We recommend that you do that if you haven't been asking for reviews. You do that for the first 2 weeks, and you spend about 5 minutes a morning. Everybody goes through it once as a team member and once as a patient. So they twin up and then they swap roles, and they do that once or twice. Dr. Trivedi, can you tell me about your pattern and how you guys do it?
Yeah, it's exactly what we did in the beginning. Now we don't have to do it as much because the machine rolls, if you will, right? People have been doing it for a long time, but in the beginning we drilled a lot. We do a weekly morning meeting in each office with about 2 hours, and I devoted multiple meetings to it.
Fantastic. So for those of you, again, who are existing Blumberg Digital clients, reach out to your account manager, say, I want that script. Just email them and they will send it to you. You don't want your team member reading a script. Hello, Mr. Jones. How are you today? How did your treatment? We don't want that. Okay. We want your staff to go through that in a drilling, just to kind of, smooth out the rough edges. And if you haven't been doing this and you're doing something brand new, it might be a little bit rough initially, but you're going to take those rough edges and smooth them out through drilling when you're not in front of a patient. And then pretty soon you stick to the wording exactly per our script, exactly, like do not change it. You stick to that script exactly. Do not vary a stroke, not a word, not a letter. Get that rolling. And over time, you're going to find your own rhythm and your own wording, and you'll make it your own. So that's what we recommend. Reach out to your account manager for that script. And if you're not a client of Blumberg Digital, Miriam, if you wouldn't mind, put your contact details where somebody can say, I want this script, and they can email you. Good. So Dr. Trivedi, a couple other questions came up. Does he have the patient start writing the reviews in the office after they read the QR code you have in the office? Or how do you present that?
Yeah, that's huge. Is I always get, if you send the patient home, the chance that you get the review is going to be minimal. Right. And I'm sure a lot of dentists have those automated follow-up things where you text the patient and they're not very successful. We don't even do those anymore. The reviews are gotten in the office. And man, my staff are so on top of it. Let me tell you, sometimes they get reviews before I even see them. The patient falls in love with the reception experience and with their FMS. It's the most painless FMS they've had. Bam, review. The staff are always looking out for an opportunity to get the review. So we've gotten reviews at reception. We get reviews with our dental assistants. We get reviews, with our treatment coordinators, our schedulers. Everybody is kind of on top of the review game, and we get the patient leave the review. And you got to run a little bit of control on the patient. It always starts with, how was your visit? And obviously the visit has to be good, which I'm sure it is. And then you say, hey, scan this QR code for me if you don't mind. Not, if you're, it's very direct. I had a staff member, and she's amazing. She's actually in hygiene school now, but she'll be back soon. She would ask the patient, how was your visit? And they'd be like, it's really good. Would you mind giving us some feedback online? They'd be like, yeah, sure. Give me your phone. That was her next line. And I'm not saying everybody should do that, but and then she'll scan the QR code and hand it right back to them. Awesome. But you have to run a little bit of control on the patients.
Beautiful. Good. A couple other questions came up. I'm just going to answer those. Do you handle negative reviews? You must answer them. Just so you know, you're going to get negative reviews. And we don't want you to put your attention on it. Every dog has a couple fleas. It's just the nature of life. Any good patient is going to go, wow, they got a lot of good reviews and they got some negative experiences, at least from the perspective of the patient. And they're responding professionally, politely, generally, never talking specifically about the case because that'd be a HIPAA violation. If you need those guidelines, we can help you out with those guidelines, but you must answer every negative review. And then somebody else asked, do photos in the reviews play a heavier weight? They do, not from Google's perspective that I know of, but they play a major role when people actually say, hey, I'm going to check out this practice and look at their reviews. And hey, raise your hand if you're an audio-visual person, you like photos. Yeah, everybody likes pictures. Just about everybody I know likes pictures. So people are drawn to the photos. So yes, get in there. A couple other questions that came up. Can the doctors ask for reviews? Doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say a lot of times but by the time they come to me, the review might have already been done. And I like to get my staff to do it. So a lot of times I'll say, hey, let's get a review from that person. I'll empower them to do it. But yeah, 100% you can. And I have.
Yeah. What we found, our experience is that if doctors and office managers are not asking for the reviews, then it's hard to get the body to follow, the neck and the head if the neck and the head aren't turned in the right direction. So it's very important to set an example. Doctors, we even have a slight variation of the review script for you so that it's comfortable and it's not weird. Great to see all you want more on reviews. And then one of the questions that came up is, what are some of the incentives that you have with your staff to put in for reviews?
Right. So we run a lot of different games, and sometimes it's just each review has a certain reward attached to it. So number of reviews times that reward, and whatever feels real to you and it's fair. Reviews are worth their weight in gold, in my opinion. Right. But it could be like $5 a review. Right. And then look, someone gets a couple hundred reviews in a year. That adds up. That really adds up. And I've had that happen. And even if, look, I've gotten 5,000 reviews, and let's say I gave $5 for each one, that's $25,000. Man, I will make that back in one case because of those reviews.
Yeah.
Because I get patients coming in all the time. And then the other thing I say is make it fun, right? One time we did a poker chip game. So we had a big tissue box of poker chips, and there was one poker chip worth $100 and the rest were worth, 5, 10, 15, 20, 20. And people would, number of reviews, you pull it out. One time we did spin the wheel, and there were prizes like a Dunkin' gift card, Starbucks gift card, things like that, and so just keep it creative, keep it fun. And then we also do whole office things. So we were like, okay, if we hit this target by this date, we're all going out to dinner, right? Or things like that. We also do.
Beautiful. I'm just going to do this because there's been so many questions around it. Dr. Saahil, you're going to be the patient. I'm going to be the staff member of the practice at ABC Family Dentistry. Hey, Saahil, how'd it go today?
It was great. I think maybe the best dentist I've been in.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We saw in your chart, you've been to other dentists and dental offices in the past, but you keep coming back to us. We must be doing something right. Can you tell us what we do better or different than other practices you've been to?
I think, well, one, every time I've been here, I've never really had pain. It's been very comfortable. But I think more than that, I just like that everybody smiles. I go to, and they treat me like a person, not a chart number.
Love that. And how about the pain and the discomfort? I saw here in the chart that's been an issue, and you're not a big fan of needles and drills, as most of our patients are not.
I'm not, and I still don't look forward to when I have to get a needle or a drill in my mouth, but at least here it's the most comfortable with it I've been.
Fantastic. Well, the reason I ask is that today, people don't want to hear from a dental office or any business about themselves. They want to hear from people who've been to that business. And for that reason, could I ask you to just sit right here in this chair and take 2 minutes to share those same kind words you just mentioned to me in an online review?
Yeah, I'll do that for you guys.
Okay, good. Now let's do that again. And you're going to be too busy. You got to get out of here. You got to grab some lunch. So appreciate those kind words. The reason I'm asking is that today people don't want to hear from a business about a business, and certainly not a dentist about a dental office. Would you be willing to share those same kind of words you just mentioned to me by sitting right there in the chair and taking 2 minutes to leave us a review?
I don't mind, but my parking meters just actually is about to run out in a minute. I got to run out and go. Okay, good. Well, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna walk out with you. We're playing a game. If the team, all of us, get 10 reviews from patients while they're here at the office, we all get Starbucks on Monday. If I walk with you, is that going to seem weird? We're so close to winning. No, okay. If you walk, I'll type it can I scan it and then I'll just post it while I walk?
Yeah. I'll just help you out with it, and I even got some quarters. We can go to the meter together.
Sounds good to me.
Good. So, hey. Team members, how many of you would like to get Starbucks on Monday or pizza on Monday if you guys got 10 reviews? Raise your hands. Good. And hey, doctors, how many of you would be willing to take care of your team if they got you 10 reviews or 15 reviews in a week? Yeah. So it works well. And what patients love is they love to see, doctor owners, that you are taking care of your team. They also love to see people playing a game, and people like to play games. We're not going to ask grouchy, low-toned people with like nasty attitudes. We're just going to give them a skip. And not everybody's going to have a smartphone. Some people are going to have a dumb phone and, flip phone. And it's asking for a Gmail. What's a Gmail? Okay. You got to make your own call on that one. But you will find that roughly 7 out of 10 patients will qualify to leave a review. You just got to ask them. Agreed, doctor?
Agreed.
Great. Good. So that's one of the main ones. You said reviews, yes. Non-negotiable.
Yeah. So the reviews are the biggest thing. And that sets your groundwork for marketing, right? And that actually gave me a lot of confidence to spend more money on marketing because with modern marketing, right? I remember marketing pre-COVID, really. You'd send someone a postcard. They'd like your postcard. They'd call you. Now, You send them a postcard. What are they going to do? They're going to look you up on Google. They're going to check out your website. They might go to social media and then they'll call you, right? So I found that no matter what marketing you do, it tends to lead back to Google. It really does. No matter where they see you, and that's me as a consumer, no matter where I see some sort of marketing, I always will cross-verify it now. And I'll go back to Google, I'll check the reviews. And so that's why no matter what you're doing in marketing, the Google reviews is kind of it undercuts all of that. And then the second thing, which was really big for us, which I started doing in about 2023, I realized, look, I'm doing a lot of marketing and my reviews are great. I'm getting a lot of leads, but you're not going to schedule every lead that you get. You're not, and that's okay. And when you drop insurances, you may schedule a little less leads, and you can always raise that number by training yourself. But I realized at one point that, hey, if someone calls me and they don't schedule, I'm losing that lead. Because what we used to do is, look, if they schedule, they don't show up, I have them in my practice management system. So I'd call them. But we didn't have a running record of all the leads coming in. So the original reason I did that was just, hey, I have this. So if my new patient coordinators have some downtime, if any of my staff have some downtime, they can just start calling these patients. Hey, you called last month. We weren't able to get you in, but do you still need a dentist? Right. And then that turned into me being able to track my marketing companies really well. So I created a spreadsheet and my new patient coordinators fill it out. Nikita mainly, who's on this call, with my patient, patient name, phone number, email, if they have an email, what marketing company they came from. And that's been huge because that's allowed me to really dial in my marketing over the past 2 years and get the biggest bang for my buck. Because I say, okay, this is not working. Let's move budget from there. This is working really well. Let's give them more budget. And that's allowed me to optimize my marketing through the tracking. And I'm following up with these leads a lot more.
Wow. Yeah. So Dr. Saahil, I'm just going to shoot straight here because I'm going to represent everybody on this call right now. They're not sitting in the same position you're sitting as a CEO, not working, the chair. They are overwhelmed with this, that, and the other thing. They just walked in, they found out the receptionist isn't showing up today or any other day. She decided she's not coming back. The compressor's down. Somebody left pizza in the break room for the weekend and they got to clean that up, plus the cockroaches that are along with it now. And all that's going on, right? 3-man, 5-man, 7-man office. They don't have the 100 staff that you have between your 4 practices. So how important is it for that practice to do the tracking like you're talking about?
It is massively important. And it's not a lot of work, right? Because Blumberg Digital can provide you the call log. And what I have my staff do, because we get a lot of leads, they write it on paper. And at the end of the day, they just enter it onto the computer. But for me, new patient leads are sacred and they're expensive. Right. And so I actually have not everybody's allowed to pick up a new patient call in my office. You have to be one of the best team members that I have to be given that right and that responsibility to handle my calls. I have a very dedicated new patient team. And as you expand, that's one of the first positions I would kind of isolate and say, hey, who's going to be my new patient in charge? Who's responsible for obviously handling the new patient calls, but also tracking the new patient calls? Yeah.
And let's talk about that point. Everybody attending right now, put this in the chat. You complete the sentence on this one. The job, function, or duty that belongs to everybody belongs to, don't say it, Dr. Saahil.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. CEO.
True.
Someone said the CEO. Oh, that's, I guess ultimately, the job, function, or duty that belongs to, quote unquote, everybody belongs to nobody. Yes. No one. And anything that you want more of, or you want to improve, or you want to increase control of, you must put somebody in charge of that. So if you want more new patients, well, what do you obviously need? You need a new patient coordinator. Now, for the 3-man, 5-man, 7-man office, that might not be somebody who's single-hatted. Again, I would if I were you, because it's so important, like you said, Dr. Trivedi, how much do leads cost? I know how much they cost in New York, A, because I do your marketing, and B, because it's like a documented point of how much it costs to get a lead and a new patient in New York. But fine, double hat somebody. Take somebody on staff and you are also in charge of all new patient coordination traffic. What do you think about that, Dr. Trivedi?
Yeah, I look at things as an investment, and marketing is an investment, right? And when you invest in something, what do you expect? A return, right? So when I invest in marketing, I expect a return, which in the form of leads, high quality leads. But you have to, if you're willing to invest in marketing, you should also be willing to invest in the systems in your practice that allow you to use marketing to its max. And that is just as important of an investment as just increasing your marketing budget, is increasing in the right team members and then the right training for those team members in order to leverage those leads. Because again, the purpose of marketing is to bring me leads, and I get a lot of leads. But what I do with those leads is a big part of this, my own responsibility as a CEO and a practice owner.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Now we got a couple people requesting those scripts. Just so you all know, I'm working with Dr. Trivedi and his team. They've got DDS dashboard. They've got every single hat written. They've got all their scripts written. We're looking at working out with them to create a marketplace on DDS dashboard, where then you can have access and possibly purchase those as a pre-set of hats. We're talking about that. So strong possibility on that one. They've spent a lot of work to develop those hats and those scripts and all that. But at the same time, that was 3 years worth of a project for Rushi Trivedi. It has been perfected and fine-tuned and honed over the years that the family has now progressed into what they've progressed into today. So we'll talk about that. Dr. Trivedi, I want to ask this question. You realize you're losing thousands of dollars. You're losing this opportunity. Can you just walk through a little bit? Because we're talking about tracking and you got to do the call log and stuff that Blumberg Digital supplies. For the person that has never done this or isn't doing this or is overwhelmed by the thought of this, can you just break it down? What does that mean? What does that mean? Tell me what you do or what the new patient coordinator is expected to do.
Yeah. So the way our process works is lead comes in. Right. And I've set it up so that all the leads go to the new patient coordinator, right? And if they come in, they get transferred directly to that person. And in front of them, they have a piece of paper. And it's essentially a printed out version of a call log. And the patient comes in, and there's a certain series of questions that we ask, name, phone number, why are they calling? If you've that they ask, and they write it down. They write down the patient's name, they write down the patient's phone number, they write down why they're calling. And then they also write down, how did they hear about us? Which is one of the most important questions to ask. Those are 4 key questions that you want from any lead. Is name, phone number, how did you hear about us, and how can we help them? And those are the 4 most important questions I start with. And a patient may start talking to me like, no, I totally got that. Listen, can I just ask you a quick question? Can I get your name and phone number so if we can disconnect it? That is vital data to have. They write that down. Now, look, if the patient doesn't book an appointment, I've got their name, phone number, why they're calling. Right. So I can always follow up with them again. And I'll give you an example that, let's say a patient calls in and we don't take any insurance. And they say, I want a practice that's in network. I'm sorry, I can't come here. And they don't schedule. Well, I can follow with that patient in a day or 2. Say, hey, I'm just checking in on you. Did you get an appointment in network? And if New York's like anywhere else in the US, they may not have gotten that appointment for 2-3 weeks. Right. I had a patient come in who wanted to go in network for a filling, and they gave her an appointment in April. We're in January. But that happens with new patients as well. And so you can follow with them. And then at the end of the day, what happens, the new patient coordinators or my new patient coordinator in charge, because I have a team of them now, we'll just enter that into the computerized spreadsheet, right? Because then it's just easier to track. I can say, okay, in the month of January, how many leads did I get from this marketing source? They also write their name in. So the way my log looks like, it has the staff's name, then it has the date, then it has the patient's name, phone number, how they heard about us, why they're calling. And then if they schedule an appointment, we'll put in the chart number as well.
Can I put an example on the screen? This is the Blumberg Digital. So there it is. The date, time, first and last name, cell phone, marketing source. Is a Google post. If it was Google or another search engine, what was the search phrase? Issue the problem is calling about, were they scheduled? Yes, no. Did they arrive? Yes, no. That's post-populated, obviously. Value of treatment presented, value of treatment accepted.
Exactly. Right. So this is almost exactly what they have on paper. It's just that one extra step is at the end of the day, I put it into a spreadsheet so that it's easier to track.
Yeah.
And then we can just go back and say, okay, who do we have to update? And we'll update them. If they close, we'll put that in. Because then I can see, hey, is this working or not? Like, we've been doing local search for a couple months, and it's really starting to groove in. And just yesterday, I have a patient who committed to implant treatment from local search. And I think it's a $55,000 case. Right. I'm like, okay, wow, local search. So now at the end of the month, and every month I review all my marketing, but at the end of the month, when I review my marketing, I'm saying, okay, well, local search gave me this much return on my investment. Maybe let's up the budget on local search. This other marketing didn't. Let's reduce that budget and move it over here. And I can really optimize month by month my marketing simply by having a very accurate call log.
Okay. So then it sounds like it's kind of non-negotiable on this one. No matter what size your office is, whatever, if you're spending money on marketing, you should be tracking your leads.
Yeah.
Good. Now, obviously, when you had that realization, did it just fall into place? Did it just because you mentioned it once, did your staff just magically put it all in place? And
I mean, I've got some great staff, one of who's on the call. So I'm not going to say anything. No, I'm kidding. No. But I had to put the framework in place. I had to train them on it. Once I put the framework in place, I trained them on it, then they kept doing it. Right. Like I said, your new patient person is not just someone you pull off the street. It has to be an extremely capable team member. And so once I trained them on it and I showed them how to do it, then it was being done very well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Good. Now a question came in, Dr. Trivedi. How do you track your monthly lead source data?
Right. So if you're entering this onto like the digital version of the call log, it's very easy because it just goes by date. And if you have just a basic Excel functionality, you can just sort by marketing company.
Fantastic.
It's not the Blumberg Digital. As long as you're tracking it, I'm sure they'll help you do that as well. And I do some other marketing, like I do mail marketing, for example. It's all in the same call log.
Now, for those of you who are Blumberg Digital clients, your account manager, and if you're on Google Ads, your account manager will send you our electronic version of this, which is really, really cool because it's synchronized with us. We have access to it and then we're watching it, you're watching it, etc. So reach out to your account manager on that one. If you just want the sheet like you just saw there and you're not a client of Blumberg Digital, reach out to Miriam. Miriam will just email Miriam and she'll send you a copy of it. Great. Anything else about, I will ask you this, so say you got a team and you've got the order to track this in, calls are coming in, but you know that the call log isn't being populated, they're not keeping it and stuff. How do you correct? What do you say to your team? How do you get them on it? And how do you check to see if they're using it?
As a management thing, what I've found out is as long as people understand the value of something, they'll do it. And so have you really explained to the staff the value of the new patient call log? It's not just, I want to track how you're doing. No, there's so much more depth to the new patient call log and the staff really understand the importance of it, not just to me as the CEO, but to their own posts, because this gives them, leads to follow up with to help their own personal statistics and also for the office's sake. What I've always found as a CEO is whenever I give staff something to do, I try to explain to them why we're doing it. And once they understand the importance of it, it becomes automatic.
Interesting.
The value.
Interesting. Good. I want to take this up, Dr. Trivedi, because one thing you just said at the very end there, I think is very important. And I'm going to say this for the sake of everybody. Everybody hold up 10 fingers. I want to see 10 fingers in the air, just like that. Good. So out of 10 new patient phone calls, how many do you think your office is converting into scheduled new patients? Show me on your fingers. Out of 10, show me. I see fingers dropping routinely. Okay, good. All right. So depending on where you are, so you should be able to answer that question. And if you're doing this right now, scratch. That's an indicator that you need a new patient call log. Okay. Kind of an ideal scenario is you do an 8 out of 10. That's ideal. That's kind of perfect. Not perfect world, because perfect would be 10 out of 10, but it just doesn't exist. You're going to have somebody calling from the wrong zip code or it's a wrong patient type. So, don't be too heavy on yourself or your team, but 8 out of 10 is kind of the ideal scene, right? That said, the area you're in and the marketing you're doing, it might be different, but you would then at least know that if you're averaging 7 out of 10 and it drops down to 5 out of 10, you need to look into it. And if it's magically bumped up to 8 out of 10, you need to look into that too. One thing that we do to help our teams understand the importance, like Dr. Trivedi was just saying, every new patient, they're going to spend whatever they spend when they come in. It might just be a cleaning. It might be under your PPO. So you really don't see that much out of it. But studies have been done that a patient who's successfully acquired and retained will spend on average, $10,000 in their lifetime cycle with that practice. Lifetime doesn't mean their lifetime or your lifetime. It just means in the studied lifetime of a patient, which is 10 years. That includes the person who comes once and never comes back to the person who comes generationally and their kids come and their dad was there and that sort of thing. So they're going to spend $10,000 in the lifetime of the practice. That's on a general average practice. MGE clients, that number has been moved to $25,000. They retain people better and they service people better. So I want you to think about this when the phone rings next time and it's a new patient phone call. I want you to think about that being $10,000, not the cleaning or the this or that, but thumbs up if you understand what I just did there. That's explaining to your team that every potential new patient phone call has a value of $10,000. But wait, There is more. Every successfully acquired and retained patient will refer on average, based on study, this is not MG clients, but on just every general dentist out there, on average, this is very average, two. Some won't refer any, some will refer a bunch, but every successfully acquired and retained patient will refer in the course of their lifetime as a patient to additional. So that's $10,000 from them, and that's $10,000 for each of the 2 patients that they refer. And if you're an MG client, you can bump those numbers up. So when that phone rings, don't just think about the cleaning or the whitening or whatever it is they're calling for and scheduling for. Think about that person being retained and the 2 additional people they are going to bring you. And Nikita just said in our office, it's 14 average monthly. Wow, it's a big number. So these are big numbers. Maybe a helpful tip to explain to your staff. I don't know what you think about that, Dr. Trivedi.
Yeah, I think you really see the value in that. And what I've trained my staff to is, I'm not saying there's not a lot of great dentists around us, but I'm the only office where I can guarantee they're getting amazing treatment personally, right? So you getting them into us is you guaranteeing they're getting amazing treatment, right? We have this big sign in our conference room that says, people need our dental care. Need, the hour is in all caps, right? Because when you bring them into our office preferred, we know they're getting properly taken care of. And it's really the case. I had this patient, the one from Local Search I told you about, that closed for, not that one, actually a different one, but again, came through Bloomberg. He went to a DSO who shall not be named that specializes in full arch dentistry. And he got turned away at front desk because he filled out some form and the receptionist like, sorry, I don't think we can help you. He didn't even get to see a doctor.
Wow.
And this is a DSO that specializes in full arch. He came to my satellite practice, where we don't even do full arch, and the dentist immediately recognized this was a full arch case. Closed him for 35, routed him to the other office where I actually do the full arch the same day, paid another 35 that day, wow. Paid $70,000 in one day just from good new patient. And Nikita is the one, she's on the call, who scheduled this patient by just really good new patient call handling and control and a great marketing company combined.
Yeah. And you were saying you did pick up another patient from Google Local that you've just instituted. What happened there?
Yeah, patient came in, potential full arch case. I had her in yesterday to see the surgeon just to finalize everything. And then, she's going to bring in a certified check. We already scheduled her for the treatment. She applied for financing. She got approved for like $60,000. And she's like, you know what? I'm just going to pay you guys in full. So she's supposed to bring that in some point this week. But had started paying towards treatment is the idea for, I think it's a $55,000 case. Wow. And not even Implant. This is just Local Search.
I'd like to go into that as the next point if you're ready to go on from... Yeah. So we talked about reviews. Now we talked about the importance of tracking. I would love it if you would talk about what you feel about the multi-channel marketing approach to marketing, rather than just relying on Google Ads or just relying on this or just relying on that single or dual channel. Can you talk on that?
Yeah, I think because there's so many different sources of marketing these days. Even Google themselves, they have Google Ads. They have Google Maps ads, they have Google Local Search. I think, and I just heard you saying they're bringing in AI. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on, and different people will be hit by different ads, if you will, right? And if you're only doing one form of marketing, you're missing out on a portion of the population. And so I think that's a big part is you want to be everywhere in front of your patients, because you never know where they're going to see you, what they're going to click on. And I found a lot of great success in having a wide range of marketing. And not just, look, our core is still Google Ads, and I think it will be for a long time. But, we do a lot of service with you guys, but we have Local Search, we have Stream Local, which is the streaming TV ads now, where we're starting to get patients from there, which is still more of a PR and positioning sort of marketing. We have the website, we have Facebook ads and all of these different things people see. And it's also important to be in multiple places, because sometimes people don't call right away. And so they see you one place, then a few days later, they see you in another place. And then maybe the third time they see you, they'll call back.
Great. So let's talk about some of the channels. I get this question a lot. Postcards. And you're in New York. New York is just so progressive. Nobody reads. Postcards are gone. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of postcards. Mm-hmm. And we're actually bringing them back in a pretty big push, especially in my more suburban practice, which is still much more congested than the typical suburban area of the US. Suburban in New York City is probably urban everywhere else. But we're bringing postcards back. It's been going well. We do a lot of things. We do a new homeowner letter where they get, we get a list of people who have bought or rented a place recently, and we buy that list. Costs me like $150 a month, and we send them letters, welcoming them to the area. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of postcards, and the postcards are just another way to put yourself in front of someone. right? It may not act on that postcard. And one postcard's never going to cut it. You got to do it multiple times. But they see my postcard and then maybe they're watching, TV at night and they see an ad come up on streaming. And then 3 months later, their tooth is hurting. And now they search dentist near me and they see preferred dental care pop up with local search. They're like, oh, this name sounds familiar. Then they click on my website, which is optimized for SEO by Bloomberg. They're like, oh yeah, I remember this photo because it was on the postcard. And then they're more likely to call. So there's just so many layers to marketing.
Lovely. A question just came in. Did you connect with local realtors for the recently sold list?
We work with a company that just supplies us the list. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll be able to find companies there are companies that create lists for everything. As a dentist, you're on a list somewhere, right?
First recommendation is go to your post office because sometimes the post office does that as a welcome pack. Can you talk a little bit on the offers that you put in your postcards? We call those new mover mailers. Some people shy away from specials. They don't want to sound like the bargain dentist, and that's not who we are. Can you talk on that point as far as specials and offers? And
I've personally always been a fan of specials. And my logic there is pretty much if your concern is the dollars you're getting from the exam and x-rays, then you're not doing enough dentistry. Severe as that sounds, but I'm not worried about the $50, $100 for an exam because I've had people come in for free consultations and close for major treatment. But I mean, we run a couple different specials. I think it's $99 for an exam and x-rays, and it's $199 for an exam x-rays, including for new patients.
Okay.
Whatever works for your area. And I've always been a personal big fan of free second opinions. If you want a second opinion, like if you bring in x-rays, I will get you in for free because that patient is motivated to do dentistry.
So important. I hope everybody just heard what Dr. Trivedi just said. Free second opinion. It should be all over your website. It should be on any postcards, on your social media. This is a person who's walked out of a dental practice. They were not sold, but it's still on their mind. And if they're coming in for a free second opinion, they are the closest person to sign up for services. Yeah.
And what I tell all my staff and executives, like, listen, let's not introduce any stops on this line. Just let it flow. Just get people in. Just get them in my doors and then we'll figure it out. Is kind of what they're instructed to do.
Which aligns with the magic of good management, the article that you studied on your executive training with MGE. Doctor, you had this interesting thing happen where all of a sudden somebody tried to come in and move in and capitalize on all your goodwill and your area and stuff. Can you talk about how you strategically dealt with this? Everybody, I want you to listen up. This is what you do when you've got some ability, some marketing capacity, and you've got competition, Dr. Trivedi.
And look, we're in New York City, so we're no strangers to competition. But in our main practice in Queens, and it's a big practice, and we had this DSO looking to open up really down the block. Like if you come out onto my front door, you'll see them and they'll see us. And they put up this big sign. One, I wasn't too worried because first things I did, I looked up their reviews, right? And it was like, they had 1,000+ reviews, but it was 4.5 stars. I was like, okay, great. So because of my positioning with reviews, I already have that. But I said, look, what makes me unique, right? And it was that we're a family-owned business. We've been in this neighborhood for 30 years. And I said, let me really push that. And actually, my dad had this idea. He saw this bus stop outside of that office. He's like, I wonder if we can advertise on that bus stop. And we had looked into this years ago, and it was really expensive for us. And that was in a different time in our practice, probably 6-7 years ago. I called up the bus stop company, and I negotiated with them. And I ended up buying 9 bus stops because I liked the idea. And actually, the ad just went up last week. It's great. Every time I step out of my office now, I see a photo of me and my mom and my sister because one of the bus stops is on our block. But I'm just pushing, family owned and operated for 30 years, serving hundreds of thousands of patients in Queens. And we just really hit that point. And then I took that to the next level. I said, man, these bus stops might really work. But then I said, where do I put the bus stops? Because it's expensive. I'm spending $50,000 for the year for these 9 bus stops. And I pulled a report from my Eaglesoft, that's what I use, of just all my best, where am I getting my best patients? And now I have pretty much in my 9 hotspots around Queens, I have a bus stop where I tend to get my best patients. And it's great. And then that ties in because they'll see me on the bus stop. They'll look me up on Google. I've got reviews. My site is amazing through Bloomberg. They'll go on my site. Maybe they'll need a dentist. They'll Google best dentist near me. They'll see my pay-per-click or my local search ad, but they've also seen me on the bus. I was like, oh, that's that family dentist that I've seen. So this is that synergy of just multi-channel marketing that we're really pushing on the past few years.
I love that. So you actually did some work and finding out, where are you getting your patients from geolocating them, and then looking at those that higher value, found out where that is, and then you marketed specifically into that instead of a shotgun approach. I think
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Like in your area, it might be billboards. It could be bus stops, right? I mean, even down in Clearwater, when I've been at MG, I've noticed that the bus stops have ads on them. Pretty common, I think, these days. But you can do a billboard. But when you're picking a billboard, you got to pick the right one. And in my logic, I want one where I'm already getting amazing patients from, because I know I'm not getting every single patient in that neighborhood, but I know that there's patients in that neighborhood who are definitely amazing patients. I'm going to use the same data to postcard market. Actually, my next thing is I'm going to postcard market around my bus stops. Yeah. Beautiful.
Beautiful. I want to talk on this point. Some people think, oh, I just need to go after big cases. I want to, I spent a lot of time and money on my continuing education to do FMR type stuff and implants and stuff. Your approach has always been bread and butter and then anything on top. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, we've had two, I think, key marketing approaches. I'll undercut that with one other statement. My approach with marketing the practice is always to market it as a brand. Because I want people to come to preferred dental care. I don't want people to come for Dr. Trivedi. It was a very important move for us because I wanted that freedom, right? When people come for your brand, it's not associated directly with you. Even though I'm still a face of the brand, my bus stop marketing still has my photo on it. I'm on the website, I'm on YouTube. But we really wanted to create a brand, which was one part of it. And the other part of our marketing is, and I'll show you how they tie together, is I always wanted to be a bread and butter first office. What does that mean? Crowns, bridges, dentures, single implants, root canals, fillings. And there was a very specific reason for that. One, it's very good for marketing. It's easier marketing. It's less expensive marketing. It's higher volume marketing. But also it's very recession proof. And if you're doing a lot of cosmetic cases, full arch, which is amazing, and we do that, as you've heard. But I never put all my eggs into that basket. I wanted a bread and butter first practice, one that would run no matter kind of the situation outside, one that I could put other dentists into as well as associates, because they can really jump in and pick up, that bread and butter dentistry. And then from that bread and butter dentistry core and from building that brand, we were able to grow a lot by offering other services and also bringing other doctors to do the treatment with us.
Interesting. Yeah, fantastic. I think everybody's going to choose their own route of what they do, but I think your positioning is very safe, because I think a lot of our clients want to eventually move out of the restorative seat very minimally, and sometimes out of the doctor hat for that practice, and maybe do multiple practices or to go do something else in life. And that keeps the practice with the brand or the vision around the dentistry done by that practice, while keeping the idea it's a family practice still, as opposed to like a corporate or a DSO.
Yeah. And you'll figure that out with your marketing, right? And it's a very exact balance that you get. You can market your brand and yourself at the same time, and it's okay.
Beautiful. Doctor, you transitioned out of insurances and you started dropping plans and you did that all and you came out on top. Some tips that you could give those that are interested. Doctor, talk about that, the broad strokes of what you think is important for somebody who wants to become less dependent upon PPOs and more, fee-for-service based.
Look, we took a lot of PPOs, right? And we didn't have any other insurance. We had a lot of PPOs when I took over the practice in 2020. And we grew despite that, right? And our income went up and it went up and it went up. But it got tighter and tighter, right? Because expenses went up and reimbursements went down. And I was looking at my numbers, and I'm a numbers guy. And then I saw that at some point in the future, the decision would have to come for me in my practice. This is my own reality here, that I would either have to cut quality, cut the time I'm spending with patients, or drop insurances. And I didn't want to wait for that to come. So then I decided, and I'll give you the timeline. I decided in May of 2024, like, we are doing this. It took me 6 months to build up to it. I dropped my first plan in November of 2024. I dropped my last plan in November of 2025. And through all of 20, so really we dropped most of our plans. I dropped Delta in Feb of 2025, then MetLife, then Guardian, then Cigna, and eventually Aetna. And I dropped all of them. And through that process, we had our highest ever year in 2025 while dropping every PPO. The way I did it, though, is first you have to get your team on board.
Talk about that. Like, what does that mean and how did you do it?
I think my staff got tired of hearing about it, but I spent hours talking to my team about why we're doing this. Because I've always found when you don't give people information, they create it out of nowhere. So if you just tell your staff, hey, I'm dropping insurance, but you don't tell them why, they may just invent it in their mind, right? And it could be, well, the doc just wants more money, or we don't care about insurance patients, or this or that. But there was a very exact reason we were doing it. And the reasons were, one, we will not sacrifice our quality. I want to give the patients as much time as they deserve. I want to use local labs. I'm not sending my lab work to the cheapest lab out of the country. I'm using only local labs. I'm using great quality materials. We're giving patients the full amount of time. We're not side booking them and doing 2 crowds at the same time. That was factor one. And factor two, which was really, for me, it's like, if I walked into a Starbucks and I paid $6 for a coffee, and then the guy behind me got charged $3 for the same coffee, I'd be a little annoyed at that. I said, I don't like the fact that we're doing this to patients. I said, the patients that are choosing us because they love us are getting charged UCR fees, but the patients that are just coming to me because I take their insurance are getting charged less, right? But that was one of many factors. And I really drove this home with staff. And I got them on board where they started like, all right, doc, when are we doing this? When are we dropping the insurances? Let's go. Like, what are we waiting for, right? And I really had to sell the idea to my staff that we need to do this for the patient's and the office's best interest. Then once I got everybody on board, then I started training them on how we're going to do it. And the way I did that is I drew up about 10 different scenarios that would come up. You know, you have your patient with state insurance, and you have your patient with HMOs, and you have your patient with a PPO. Then you have your patient with Delta, because that's different, because Delta won't pay the practice. The check goes to Delta, you know? Then I had a patient with PPO who wants to go in network. And I came up with 10 different of the most common scenarios that we face, mainly for new patients. I then did some role playing with one of my executives. I pretended to be the staff member, and she pretended to be the patient. And we recorded about 10 phone calls of me speaking to a patient about, and she would give me these barriers, like I only want to go in network, or I don't want to pay out of pocket, or this or that. And I handled each one. We recorded all 10 of these conversations. And I actually used, believe it or not, I used AI. And I fed it this data, and I said, create a training manual for my staff. And then it did. And then I also cleaned it up a little bit. And then I had every single one of my team members do this course that I created. Not just my new patient coordinators, my executives, my receptionists, my manager, my doctors did this course. So everybody is speaking the same language as far as dropping insurances goes. And then I did a second course. I like to drive. I drive a lot. And every time I drove, I would anytime I had an idea of what makes my office different and better, I would record it. And so there's a whole separate course, about 20, 25 points. What makes preferred dental care special?
Wow.
I have all the stuff. And then every year they redo these 2 courses.
Every year they redo those 2 courses.
Including my doctors.
Wow. Wow. Type in the chat, me, if you want to see Dr. Trivedi handle me as a patient calling in to see if you take Delta. I'm putting you on the spot, doc. Uh-oh, look at this. Oh. We got a lot of people. Uh-oh. All right. Game is on. All right. Ring, ring, ring.
Hey, thank you for calling Preferred Dental Care. This is Saahil speaking. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm looking for a dentist. I need some work done. I've got a pain and stuff like that, but I just want to make sure you guys are, I guess my HR person said, in network with Delta. So I'm just calling to make sure that you're in network with Delta. That's what my HR person said to ask you.
That's a great question, actually, because, we have a lot of Delta patients coming to our practice. Before I get into that, you mind if I just get your name and phone number in case we get disconnected?
Sure. My name's Dan Brown. My phone number is 555-1212.
Great. And Dan, how'd you hear about our office?
Oh, I was actually, I'm not that far away, and I looked up. I always use reviews. I'm a big on Amazon and stuff. You guys had a lot of reviews, so yeah.
Yeah, we're actually the highest rated full service dental office in the state.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I was very impressed with what I saw. So yeah, I searched for best dentists in this area, and you guys kind of sitting at the top.
And you mentioned to me you're like having some pain. You feel like you need some dental work done. Have you been to a dentist recently?
Listen, it's been a bit. I'm going to be very frank with you. I'm not a big fan of going to the dentist. I haven't been very good. It's probably been about 4 years, and something's definitely wrong right now. Every time I drink something cold, I just about faint. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get onto that, because that could be a big sign of an issue going on with the tooth. I don't want you to wait. I actually have an appointment available today. And if not today, I have a couple appointments available tomorrow, because we really prioritize getting in patients who have pain. You asked me about Delta earlier. The way it works with Delta. So we have a lot of Delta patients in the practice. We work with Delta, but the way the structure is, the payment has to go to you. All right. So they will reimburse you for the work you get done with me in our practice. They will send you a check directly. And so we have a lot of patients who do that.
Okay. And it's going to be the same price and everything. Like it's, my HR person said that if I go to this place, which is in network with Delta, that I get special pricing. Yeah.
So Delta, when they work with certain dentists and they're in network, there is different pricing.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that our pricing is necessarily more or less than that.
Mm.
It's that we set our own pricing with what we feel gives us the ability to give you the best quality possible.
Mm.
But here's my recommendation to you, right? We wouldn't be considered in network with Delta, like I said.
Okay.
I've had a lot of patients who, used to go to practices in network with Delta and switch to me, still fully use their Delta benefits.
Okay.
But they come to me because, you've seen my reviews. That's why they keep coming to us.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do, you're in pain. I can get you in as soon as today.
Okay.
Come meet my dentist, right? Like I said, we have a new patient special. It's $99 for that checkup. And Dental will pay you back for that.
Okay.
Right. And then look, let us see what's going on. And if you decide to stay with us, great.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, listen, I'm not necessarily the person who's always looking for the cheapest, but I do want to make this point. Money, I'm not a millionaire and I'm not anywhere close to that. So money is a thing for me. But that said, I'm also looking for the place that's going to take care, because I'm not like I said, a big fan of the dentist needles or drills or anything like that. So your reviews speak loudly to me.
Absolutely. Listen, like I said, you're not the first person to ask me this question, and definitely wouldn't be the first patient to come in to our practice who wanted to go in network with Delta, but then came to our practice, and then that question kind of went out the window. So all I can tell you is give us a shot, and you won't be upset you did.
Okay, but before we go forward with anything, right, you're going to tell me about costs. Like, I don't want to walk in and feel like, oh, great, this has been great, and then I find out that I owe thousands of dollars.
Oh, no. We'll have a full discussion with you. And our insurance team is amazing. So we are actually really well equipped to make sure you maximize your Delta benefits with us.
Beautiful. Okay, folks, how did Dr. Trivedi do? How did he do? Yeah, nice job.
Thank you. And I'll bring up 2 points. One, you're not going to schedule every patient, right? But if Delta in the rest of the country is anything like New York City, Dan's going to call the next 3 offices and the appointment's going to be a week or 2 away. Or they're just not going to be as pleasant as I was on the phone. And so when I call Dan back tomorrow, it's like, hey, Dan, I'm just checking in on you. Were you able to find that in-network patient, in-network office? And Dan's like, yeah, but they booked me 2 weeks away. It's like, you want to come tomorrow? Dan may schedule with me. And 2, and Nikita did this once. We had a patient with a state insurance, so not even in-network, no benefit if they come to me. And on a whim, she's like, I'm not the first office you've called, am I? Patient's like, no. He's like, how many offices have you called? She's like, 11. It's like, do you really want to call number 12 or you want to come in today? Patient came in, closed.
Put it right there. Yeah. Nice. Okay, well, Dr. Trivedi, this has been amazing. We didn't get to a couple more points that I was hoping to get to, but let's see some feedback. Also, if anybody has a question, go ahead and raise your hand or open up a mic. You're going to have your video on to raise a hand. While I'm looking for a question, Dr. Trivedi, any last comments that you think would be good for these guys to know about?
No, I mean, like I said, I've had a lot of success working with Blumberg Digital. When I first started with Blumberg Digital, I had a lot of different marketing sources. I even had 2 companies doing my Google ads for me. And after, tracking, as we talked about, and I really looked at it and I said, listen, they're doing a lot better. I moved all my, marketing budget over to you guys. And I spent a lot of money on marketing, don't get me wrong. But it brings me back that return. And it's a teamwork play, right? If you have the best marketing company in the world, which is, Blumberg Digital, but if you don't have your reviews in place, you don't have your tracking in place, you don't have your staff training in place, it's just not going to work. So take care of your marketing by giving it to Blumberg Digital, but also take care of your end of the job.
Beautiful. Okay, I got a question. If we could squeeze this in quick, you're on the spot. I'm a small office. I only got $4,000 a month to advertise and market. That's my marketing budget. What are you going to tell me to do?
First, I'm going to look at your reviews. All right, we're going to make sure your reviews are in order. And then I will probably jump into, personally, it would be pay-per-click for me, right? Again, because I'm a bread and butter office. If I had to tell you, I'd probably market towards emergency stuff. I love getting emergency patients in. That's just a very personal opinion on that. Bloomberg knows best with their pay-per-click. I mean, I'm giving them my money for pay-per-click, and we've been getting great results from it.
Fantastic. Well, folks, that's the time we got. Dr. Trivedi, I just really want to thank you for this time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Always happy to do this.
Good, folks. Love to get any wins or success. Let's give Dr. Trivedi some love. Well done, doctor. Thank you again. Amazing job. Amazing job. Okay. And for everybody here, listen, if you need any help, if there's anything you need, Miriam, are you still there that you could just pop in and let folks know? I think the question of you got $4,000 a month is a little unfair, because what Miriam is going to do is do an analysis of your area before we let you spend any money. So Miriam, you want to just talk on that for a second?
Yeah, I'm right here. So the way we do it is you and I get on a call. Sometimes it's also very helpful to have some of the office staff there. And Dr. Trivedi can tell you that's exactly how we started at Owners Conference last year. We sat down, looked at the area he's in or you're in, because again, every area is different. You know, it's very different to market in New York City than in a more rural area. And a lot of you we've done marketing analysis for already in the past, but we sit down newly, look at what people are searching for, what area you're in, what marketing works, doesn't work, your competition. There's so many different factors that go into your marketing. And then we will figure out a short and a long-term plan, meaning what should we start with that will then get you to the next level. If you can only afford, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 right now, what is the best and smartest step to take right now to get you to the next level, so you can then free up a little bit more money that you can then reinvest in marketing to get you to the next level after that, and so forth. So that's how we do it.
Fantastic. Good. Well, folks, that wraps the webinar for January 2026. So good to see everybody here, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you very much.